Hello, Internet, and welcome to Ship of the Week, a show where I take your suggestions and try to build them in under an hour. I'll take viewer ideas for ships, vehicles, or other machines, and when the timer starts, I have just 1 hour to design and build something that fits whatever specifications are set out for me. If I can't finish or the ship doesn't work as intended, it gets scuttled. Ships that do work will be published to the workshop for all to enjoy. Time to hop in and find out what we'll be doing this week in Ship of the Week. So this week we're going to be doing a salvaging ship sort of inspired by the game Hard Space Shipbreaker. So this is a game, I watched some people play it and I had the thought of, I bet this would work pretty well in Space Engineers. Kind of the idea, if you aren't familiar, you're a person, you cut apart old spaceships and chuck their pieces into these bins on these huge arms on either side of your sort of salvaging bay. So I thought, that could be a good design for a salvaging ship. Doing some stuff with collectors and gravity generators, so you just kind of sit there and grind with your hand grinder, grind the ship apart, and all the pieces fall into the collectors. So I think we're going to try that today. So I've got all my parts. Without further ado, let's start that timer. And here we go, 1 hour on the clock. So I think my plan here is I'm going to try and build the basics of the ship first, all the functional parts, all the conveyors. And then I'll worry about armoring it up after, because it's an industrial ship. Looks don't really matter all that much. It kind of just needs to function. Actually, to speed myself up, let's go ahead and set up the mirror mode. So my plan is to have 2 arms coming out. I'll have a central section and a back area that'll have sort of the thrust and cargo and control area. And then a big open spot in the middle for, the grinding activities. Okay. So, I've got sort of a base structure going. I have these sort of lumps. These are the armored corner conveyors. Turn that off so you can see in there. Got these in the middle to connect everything, and then we have our collectors. So, those are kind of either side of this central gap area. We'll have plenty of room back here, so you can kind of come in along a fairly long ship and, I guess, start from the middle. I don't know if that's very smart. I could probably shorten it a bit, but I figure that looks like a good length. So yeah, that's, I guess, the basic function. Let's go ahead and slap some... Just do traditional cargo containers along the back there. So that should be the basics. Power would be good to have. We're best for that. Actually, let's do first. So, my idea here... So we've got this, the traditional gravity generator. And what it will do is pull... Well, it'll create a field that... Well, it won't work because there's no power, but everything will kind of flatly go this way. The way the projection's going. And that sort of works, but it means that you could only be grinding directly above, in the eyes of the gravity generator, directly above these things. It also means that there's a gap in the middle, like dead center, where there would be a gap. So, I think we aren't going to use those, and instead, we're going to make use of these spherical gravity generators. And if I go down here and just slap a battery in there to get everything working, you can see what these do. They create almost like a little mini planet, a ball of gravity. So you can see I'm just kind of walking all around it. And if I go to this side, so if well, I was in the middle there. You can see I start to fall straight in. I'm stuck in some sort of weird loop. But the idea is it will pull stuff from angles into the center. So let's go real quick. I think I'll be able to get a good view from here. Alright. Yeah, so that's the issue, is that's our gravity field. And it's massive. So let's shrink that right on down. And what I want is just a tiny bit of overlap there. So that should work. So right in the middle, there's just a teeny bit of issue, but because it's a sphere and not just a flat cube of gravity, in theory, it should be somewhat harder for things to get truly stuck here. Because things will be moving. You sort of flip about and then eventually fall in. So yeah, that should work. Actually, a good example. If you see, as I'm walking around on here, you can see gravity changing. So everything that gets done in the middle, hopefully, so long as it's middly enough, should fall into the front part of the collector and get collected. So that's some of the idea we're working with. Now, I guess at this stage, it's probably a good idea to start doing armor. Maybe we'll start at this end. The challenge here, this is kind of a big chunk. Because it needs to be to connect all of the collectors into the main pipeline and have enough of a surface area of collectors to pretty reliably gather scrap. If we just had the one in the middle or even the line of 3, there's a much higher chance with how the gravity is of parts ending up on the side here and not getting collected. So the question then becomes how to cover this in a compelling way while also covering up decently well this gravity generator, because I don't really like the idea of such an expensive and critical component being just out on the outer side. So I think maybe let's try a shape like this. That sort of works. It makes this section look more maybe clamped. There's a little bit more mass. There's some angles to break up the squareness of it. And maybe if we leave those as chunks, or maybe... We'll have to find some way to work this shape along the arm that looks compelling. Because I think if I just continue it straight and have big, thick tubes, it'll look kind of odd. Because you don't need those thick tubes for what's going on here. Oh, but one thing we could do... Yeah, we'll stick some batteries in here. Either side. That gives us some more power. It'll give us kind of connection points on the outside of this so I can put plates over it. Maybe if I do... let's try these. So if I use plates like this, the graded catwalk... Yeah, you can just see in. It almost looks like a grill to keep, I guess, air cooling. Doesn't make a lot of sense in space, but you can get the idea. It's like for easy access and observation, make sure everything's working. Let's make sure it did the right thing on this other side. And it didn't. So we'll turn mirror mode off. It's a downside with mirror mode is it doesn't always, well, it doesn't with certain blocks get the rotations just right. So things like the battery where they aren't mirrored. You can see one side has this panel, one side's just blank. it kind of gets confused. So it's good to remember to turn that off for some things. Okay. Those I'm decently happy with. Let's look into the rest. That's kind of an interesting design. Maybe if we extend it one more out. Yeah, so 3 there. It kind of keeps the same shape because I've basically just done it as half blocks. Roughly the same angles. It looks like it matches while still shrinking in to fit these arms. And then maybe what I do, I could do these with batteries. Ooh, actually, I think I will. So here, kind of mimicking the design over here with the gravity generators, we'll have a section. Maybe I'll angle it this way just for safety. But we'll have this section with a gyroscope in there, visible. We'll do our panels there. And then when we do the shape, from the outside, you'll have the sort of... You have this thinner section, and then you have these pieces kind of mirroring each other going along with equipment in them. Okay, it makes it almost look like there's a reason for the bulge. It's something to do, some machineries in there. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this sort of flat longness going on. We may have to find something to deal with that. But let's keep continuing this shape along and see what it looks like when it's completed. Okay, so I've done, well, a little bit of dicing apart. I'll explain real quick why I'm doing that as I enjoy another coffee. So I realized this, to kind of fit, was going to need to be 4 blocks long, and even then the piping was going to be coming in kind of right at the back. I didn't really like that. I kind of wanted the symmetry of the 3 chunks. I wanted it to be a little different, and I like the idea of the back not being piping, of the piping kind of going into the middle of the housing, so like kind of right here in the middle, and then having some space behind so it kind of looks, I don't know, chunkier. So what I've done, and this is a handy little trick I often do, I've kind of cut out the parts I don't want, left the parts I do, so that I can just kind of copy and paste them together. So we now have another piece mirroring that here. Can do the same here. And then I'm actually going to paste the entire arm on like so. So it takes a little bit of planning and kind of visualizing how you can reattach stuff, but the benefit of being in creative mode is it's really easy to reattach stuff because you have the ability to copy and paste it. So now we'll finish this off and maybe think of some... I'll have to do cladding on this bit, I think, before I can do the middle, because I need to know how the attachments will look, but I think that'll work. One downside of cutting everything apart, because this stopped being one grid, I no longer have mirror mode set up. All the work I did on that side I now have to repeat manually over here. So we've got our 2 arms with 3 sections each. Oh. Slap those panels on. And from the outside here, I think it works pretty well. It's chunky for sure. I wonder... Actually, I may extend it. There's not too much need to extend it out this way, but I think I will anyway. For maybe one more So we'll have 4 of these sort of knuckle areas. I think that will help it kind of... One, it will look better on the front end here, because I won't just have this stuff exposed. And I think it'll give it some kind of... From the inside, it'll feel more like you're enclosed and working in the middle, as opposed to the sort of sucky-in pads being at the very end. Even though I guess that would probably make slightly more sense. Okay. So I've done something slightly different here at the ends. It's a little hard to see with the gravity orb. I guess I can turn that off now that it's in position. If you look here, I did one kind of row as I would, and then I kind of curved it in to make sort of, I guess, little prows on each end. And it's not critical in space, but it always feels odd to me having a spaceship that isn't, or having a ship in general that doesn't look vaguely aerodynamic, almost vaguely ship-like, like something you'd see on Earth. So yeah, little prows that kind of makes it look like, okay, this is the front, there's some difference here, and it helps explain why there's nothing actually going on up at this end. I might be able to work something in, like, I don't know, some sort of, maybe spotlights to shine in on the work area up here. That could be something. Just a little something, a little different. I think they work pretty well. Now, the midsection. Do a quick time check. We've used about half an hour. Clock says 34 minutes left. So, luckily, I think that's kind of the big bulk of it. We just have to hope it works. Now, for the front up here, and I guess I should have made these as armored if I wanted the attachment points, but I'm not too worried about being little holes. It's not like this is going to be a pressurized space. I think we'll do something like this. Actually, we'll do with these up here, not that one. Curve here, and then a flat. So the overall will be easiest to show the kind of profile back here. It's a little asymmetrical, still sloped, but it gives us some blocks up here to play with for cockpit area. Because I feel compelled to put the sort of bridge up here. Kind of looking down on the work in the bay. So maybe we'll leave this open for now because it may be handy for putting some equipment in. Same back here. Maybe we go ahead and design the bridge. Would it work? Let's see what this bridge sloped. What we can do with that. I think we'll see. Oh, right. I forgot it has gyros already. So, okay, it moves decently well. I feel like this is the type of thing you'd have the helm station at. Because you'd be standing up here. You want a good high view looking down. You don't want a bunch of screens in the way. And it'll work as a mounting point for one of those. Which we could actually, because we have the corners, we could kind of carry around like this. That lets us make use of this whole 3x3 area inside here. So that's sort of a decently compelling shape. It sort of looks like some sort of industrial ship bridge, especially from out here. And I had the thought, I didn't originally plan on giving this any sort of real living space, but there's not really any reason not to. Can have a proper airlock. And with all this room, if we do a little bit of interior decorating, I think we've got some time. And I think we can go fairly simplistic. So we'll have a shower and toilet there. Maybe 2 beds, kind of along the other side here. Sort of crawl in style. We could put a set of lockers there. Then maybe have a kitchen with a nice view. Sure. Yeah, so you've got kind of some seated observation areas. You could do work on there, do paperwork, also could be where people eat. The crew doesn't necessarily have to eat together. Gives you a little bit of privacy, given you've got a tiny space to live in. Got some storage. Got bunks. You have bathroom. And then the controls of the ship. It's a little cramped, but I think it kind of works. And as much as I love the looking through the kitchen into the gaps of space, maybe to mirror it, we flip it like that. I think that works. Little kitchen area. You've got different kind of desk observation areas. Got the actual controls of the ship. And it makes it feel like it could actually be used for long-term salvage and whatnot. So let's work on the roof. And I should be able to make it all out of half blocks, which I think will make it look kind of... I think it'll fit the shape better than trying to do full. That's pretty compelling. I think looks good from the front, from the sides. A little bit of armor shaping up here. And then before I get too carried away, I do need to get thrust on this thing. Because the task was to build a salvaging ship, not a salvaging station. So I'm going to do something a little bit, not really unique, but I'm going to put a cargo container in there. Or maybe, no, let's put a connector in there. Kind of embedded in the front of the ship. That'll give a cargo access point to anyone who might be flying around doing grinding out here. Say they need some parts or a spare tool, or they want to get rid of something in their inventory. They can do that there. And then this gap up here, what thrusters do we have? I think this is going to be an ion-only ship. Ooh. That kind of works, though it doesn't make a ton of sense that it's a slope into a slope. And those also feel like they should be sticking out a bit. We've not got a ton of time. Let's see what I can do if I make this a little flatter. So we'll have those in there. We'll use those. Need some of that. This just becomes a flat block. Passes that one. And then we need... yeah, these fancy aligners. Yeah, that's kind of something. Now, I guess you'd want to be cautious of what you connect to this connector, because the thrusters are right above it. But you could see that being a little spot, you know, build something with a stalk, and you could kind of, if you aren't fully done moving stuff, you could connect up there with the connector, salvage stuff out. I think it makes sense to have one there. Ooh. Hold up. Of course. I need forward thrust. What better spot to put it than in these? Yeah, so forward thrust there. Reverse thrust there. Now we need up, down, and sideways. Ooh. I should be able... Yeah, I can fit... I can have 4 up and down in this. Perfect. I guess I could stick them in this middle chunk if I wanted, but I think that's fine. It makes this back part kind of look like an engine pod. I guess if I wanted, I could put the sideways thrust there. Though I kind of want... I want something on the main body of the ship. So I think we'll put 3 going side... Or we could do 4. 4 in each direction, going sideways. And then what I can do... This is a good little tip. So these, the blast door... Well, the blast door... I guess normals. And the blast door corners. They don't quite line up with these thrusters, but they sort of have the same slopes. From a distance, they kind of look like they fit and can help you kind of transition if you have thrusters like this sticking out the side. I think that's pretty compelling. Now, last thing to do is this back. I think what I may try here... Oh. Do I want to stick a jump drive on this? Nah, I don't think... It's not critical for the function. It would make sense, but... I think you can envision this being some, you know... It works out in a scrapyard area. It's not necessarily intended for long travel. And if you did, you'd either slow boat it, or maybe at some point I can design some sort of jump capable, essentially a jump ferry that carries other ships on fast and light journeys. One thing I do want to put in, though, I'll just kind of take this opportunity to stick it under here as an antenna. Okay. Let's bring the old sun around. Get a good view. Oh, these connections. Here's an idea. Maybe I just... Nah, that doesn't look quite right. Maybe these? I almost want something going in here, but... Oh, actually, I could do. Yeah, sort of some structural bracings. I guess what I could do if I'm going to be doing that... We're getting into detailing now. With... So, 15 minutes left on the clock. Yeah, we'll use some of the tube pipes. Kind of make it look like it's... More like it's designed to be external. Yeah, I think that looks like... a pretty good salvaging ship. Still don't super love this section, but... I think this should work. Ooh. We should probably add just some quick lights in here, just because it needs it. Yeah. That works. So let's do a quick... Yeah, thrust in every direction. It's honestly not horribly slow for just being ion. I guess it's not horribly heavy. Can move decently well. Yeah, from up here you have kind of a Nice commanding view. You could imagine there in between you'd have whatever ship you're salvaging. We've got a few minutes. Let's give it a sweet paint job. What am I? I'm kind of thinking, because you've got the blue glows of the thrusters. Almost thinking maybe a battered armor. Blue. Maybe a little bit more faded. Yeah. And maybe black highlights. Ooh, yeah. That works well. Let's do some... And we can paint these black along the side here. Can have these linkages be black. What's a good... Oh, crud. I forgot about oxygen. Back to Moe's. That's what I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted. So I think I want a third color. Maybe I'll just go with this yellow. Kind of mimicking some of the highlight yellows. Just to help the pipes pop a little bit. Kind of match in with the yellow here. Maybe the interior becomes yellow. Yeah, that looks... It's a little overbearingly yellow, I'll be honest, but... Doesn't look horrible. I think it'll do for in here. It definitely all feels kind of grungy and industrial. I think with 8 minutes and 30 seconds left, we're gonna call this ship done. Now comes the important part, and that is the testing. So the goal of this ship is to be a gravity-based salvager, where I can go up, surround whatever my target ship is, and then grind it down with my hand tool and collect all the pieces. I happen to have, right out there at that GPS marker, a little bit of... I hope it's still there, hold on. Yes. A little ship that just happened to be flying by at the wrong time. So, we are going to see if we can fly this ship out to it, salvage it, and come back. Yeah, so it's not the fastest to accelerate, but that was kind of a given with using only ions. Let's turn our dampeners on. I have to remember how long it takes me to accelerate, because I actually will decelerate slower. But it should work for only in space, and in theory, it's better for the small movements because I don't have to worry about accelerating so rapidly. And I have to say, it does at least look the part. It's kind of industrial, chunky. It definitely, with the big arms, looks like something that would be intended for either carrying a large chunk of ship or salvaging it. And I guess with the connector up there, it kind of is set up to do both. Okay, 2 kilometers out, let's start slowing. If I stop a little short, that's probably fine, because I'll have to maneuver into position anyway. It's got enough braking power to kind of... You can get within a kilometer of something and should be fine, depending on how fast you're going. And I guess if it's full of cargo, that'll be a different story, but... At least for now. So we'll see one of the first big tests, see if we can actually fit something inside here. Like, I have plenty of room between the arms, but it's not an insane amount. I definitely have ships that would not fit in here on their own. But this looks like a fairly small thing, and I guess worst comes to worst, I can kind of... If I go at it this way... I think sideways, because I assume the Solar panels are sort of supposed to be wing shapes. I think it'll fit. Just. Oh yeah, it'll totally fit. Oh, and this looks cool too. Coming in, just kind of surrounding it with my arms. A little bit of dust off. But that should be roughly in the middle. Let's go ahead and get a grinder ready. Oh, and accidentally bat myself away with the doors. I guess I could have put a gravity gen in the crew area. That might have been good for livability, but it's not really necessary. One thing I'm going to do real quick. So, let's spawn ourselves in a giant uranium asteroid.
Inventory full.
So, the idea behind this sort of method of salvage is your inventory fills up, and then whatever parts you grind away fall away. So, with my inventory full, if I start grinding...
Inventory full.
Hey! That looked like it worked. So I grind away the parts,
Inventory full.
and out they fall into the gravity. Let's try something a little more compelling. So, thrusters have a lot of valuables in them. Thruster components, you require platinum, you can't get it on planets. Good stuff to have. And you can see it's not straight line in. It's kind of at an angle to the collectors. So if I can collect the parts out of this, then that'll prove that this ship works. Okay, it looks like they went in. Let's check in the cargo on board. There they are right there. Haha! I think we can certifiably say that this ship is a success. Ah, that's exciting. Alright. Ah, and it looks the part too. So, I suppose, with it being a success, this ship survives, it won't be blown up, and I think it'll be going on the workshop. So, that'll probably happen around when this video gets published, which is now when you're looking at it, so it's there now. Go and check it out. It feels like it should have a pretty industrial name. Something with like it's not a fan, you know, maybe the crew calls it something special, but it's not got a proper name to it. A Type 1 salvage barge. So it kind of looks like a barge. It's got a sort of bargey looking down on things. Cockpit. It's got these big arms that kind of wrap around. Type 1 salvage barge. That's what this is. Available on the workshop now. And yeah, a success. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Feel free to check out any of the other videos I've done. Look forward to another design coming next week. And in the meantime, feel free to post your own ideas of things I could do, ideas you want to see built, down in the comments. Yeah, thank you everybody. Bye-bye.